On today's episode of the Spin Out podcast, we are very excited to welcome Nic Marchesi, who is an entrepreneur, innovator, and professional storyteller who has spent over a decade proving that a simple idea can spark a global movement. In 2014, Nic and his best friend Lucas, who were both only 19 at the time, co-founded Orange Sky, the world's first free mobile laundry and shower service for people experiencing homelessness and hardship. What began as two mates in a single van in Brisbane has since scaled into a massive organisation that has provided thousands of people with dignity, clean clothes, and most importantly, genuine human connection. Before he was the Orange Sky guy, Nic worked behind the camera as a camera operator and editor for the ABC and 7 network. This background in storytelling became the cornerstone of Orange Sky's culture, shifting the focus from just washing clothes to positively connecting communities through conversation. Nic's leadership and social impact have been recognised with the 2016 Young Australian of the Year award and an Order of Australia medal in 2020. He is also an Obama Foundation leader, having met with Barack and Michelle Obama to discuss entrepreneurship and the environment. Driven by a passion for community-led design and creative problem-solving, Nic continues to lead Orange Sky toward its goal of supporting people and providing them with dignity and clean clothes. Welcome to the podcast, Nic. Hi, Nic. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks, really appreciate it, Susan.
So we've turned up in matching shirts today. We're both in orange shirts. Tell us a story about what these shirts mean, because I think it'll come better from you.
Yeah, so these are Orange Sky's Sudsy Challenge shirts. So the Sudsy Challenge is all about starting a conversation about homelessness in Australia and raising money for Orange Sky to deliver our service. So the main premise of Sudsy, which I might talk about a little bit later, the Sudsy Challenge, Sudsy is our first van at Orange Sky, and the Sudsy Challenge is all around wearing the same clothes for 3 days and starting as many conversations as possible for the over 122,000 people that are homeless on any given night in Australia.
So we do this every year with you guys, and it's my favourite time of year to not have to think about what I'm going to wear, for one. And then this shirt kind of migrates to becoming a bit of a jammy shirt as well. So we all love it and love participating in it. But let's talk about the conversation. So that is a lot of people who are homeless, and homelessness it seems to be becoming more and more profound and impacting our lives so much more, not just in Australia, but globally. Everywhere I've travelled recently, I've seen so much homelessness, in city areas and things like that. And so tell us some more about, what happens to bring people into that situation, and why is it such a growing, phenomenon throughout globally?
Yeah, we started Orange Sky 10 years ago, and when we started Orange Sky, Lucas and I were quite naive around what homelessness was. The stereotype and stigma that we learned growing up was that homelessness was maybe a middle-aged male sleeping in a park with a scruffy beard or something like that, and that is that is completely wrong. Homelessness in Australia, only 6% of homelessness is people sleeping rough. The 55% are male. And so what we start to see is the homelessness is incredibly complex, and there's no one pathway to homelessness. Over the last 10 years, we've seen people that have suddenly become homeless through a natural disaster, people that overnight have had something incredibly traumatic happen to them, and fall into communities where they're not safe and supported. Orange Sky now operates in places like schools where young people are living in their cars or don't have access to clean clothes, so then they can't go to school. Orange Sky operates in motels where people are supported through temporary accommodation as they are on a pathway to getting safe, secure housing. So, unfortunately, key drivers like the cost of living, loneliness, the people's mental health resilience are all key contributors to a lack of appropriate housing, are all key contributors to homelessness. But what we know is that as humans, we're incredibly complex, and homelessness or hardship is something that's very complex too.
Yeah, and so how did you get into this space? Because we've sort of been on this journey for about the same amount of time. You started Orange Sky not long after I started Laundry Lady, and I don't think that either of us grew up thinking we were going to do a business that had anything to do with laundry. And now, it's a big part of our lives and our world. But where did it begin? What brought the attention to you to start this and want to start this?
Yeah, so Lucas and I went to a school in Brisbane that had a food van that fed people that were experiencing homelessness and hardship. And I can remember my mum taking me out on that van, and that day, I had never met a homeless person. I really didn't want to be there. And as somewhat of a sheltered, privileged, entitled teenager, it was just something that wasn't familiar to me. And I can remember going out on that shift with my mum and meeting a guy by the name of Harry, and he was just like my uncle or my granddad, but the difference is that he was sleeping rough. And numerous times through growing up, I was fortunate enough to participate in programs like our school food van, and it reminded me that there were people out there in our own backyard that didn't have access to things that I'd taken for granted. So Orange Sky, when we started, was quite simple. It was like, could we find a way to give back to the community in Brisbane? Like any idea, you probably tell your loved ones it. And I can remember coming home one day and telling my parents, Mum, Dad, Lucas and I want to start a free mobile laundry. And they said, how about you start washing your own clothes? So Lucas and I knew very little about washing and drying clothes, and we knew even less about running a charity. But we had this sort of dream that we could provide what is what we now know as a basic human right of clean clothes to that community. So the idea was literally just to provide free laundry to people. But then what we realised after building our first van, Sudsy, and taking it out the first day, and convincing this guy by the name of Jordan to be our first ever wash, we plugged the washing machines in, and the van made a massive bang. And we broke both the washing machines. And so we begged and pleaded the washing machine company for some more machines. We said sorry to Jordan. We went out the next day, day 2, and there was Jordan. And for whatever reason, Jordan was going to trust us with his only possessions in his life and trust these 2 idiots to potentially wash and dry his clothes for free. And we put Jordan's washing in the machine, we started it, and there was another massive bang. And we realised that morning that Orange Sky was something that had to work, because we'd sort of been added to a long list of people throughout his life, had let Jordan down. So begged and pleaded for some more washing machines, went out the 3rd day in the same time, same place, alongside our old school food van. There was Jordan. We put Jordan's washing in the washing machine, started the washing machine, and everything worked perfectly. But then what we realised is that what we thought we were out there to do, which was just simply wash and dry clothes, was only a small part of what we would do, because while the washing was on, was a really awesome opportunity to sit down and connect, and that's why Orange Sky's mission now is to positively connect communities, because whether we're in a van with a park with someone like Jordan, or if we're in a school or a motel, or if we're providing showers, it really doesn't matter. The key thing that we are really trying to do is provide those basic human rights of laundry and showers, but most importantly, bring people together and connect and really heal together as a community.
I love that, and I followed your story a lot in those early days, because obviously, we were compared to you, and we were very different to you. But so I followed it with interest, and I remember hearing you talking about the conversation and how important that is, and it made me realise how important that was in my business too, because it was, the conversation I'd have when I'd go and pick up laundry from people, like a mum who was stuck at home and was so overwhelmed because she hadn't slept all night, and to have someone come to the door and have that chat at the door was such an impact in her life, and I could see that, and I always loved that, being part of that, and that it was so much more than just doing laundry, right?
Yeah.
And so you guys were just very young when you started this, right? And you didn't know how to do your own laundry, didn't know anything about washing machines or how to get a van together and put washing machines in it and the complexities of doing all of that. So how did you go about all of that? Because that's a lot of learning that you had to get on board really quickly with.
Yeah, I think a lot of naivety, a lot of trial and error, a lot of maybe youthful stubbornness, and so like I said, Orange Sky is now over 10 years old. We've got nearly 100 services around the country. We've got thousands of volunteers. We've got thousands of friends that trust us each and every week to wash and dry their clothes. And so Orange Sky I always talk about is this gigantic tree that's got branches and leaves, and it's something that I think we all look at with awe and wonder around, like, how did we get to this point? But if we actually wind ourselves back to 2014, Lucas and I were 19. We both had other jobs. Lucas was at uni. I had an old van. We had some free time, and we loved solving problems and helping people. So this idea of just getting 2 washing machines to work in a van was just this, novel, fun, simple, impactful little thing that we planted. And yes, Lucas and I have been able to give it water over the years, but now it's thousands of people, like people that participate in the Sudsy Challenge, like you, Susan, that fund Orange Sky to run, or it's volunteers like on our Sunshine Coast van where your headquarters are, Mikey, that get the van, they take it out to a neighbourhood centre or a drop-in centre every week for over 10 years and have delivered the service. Or it's friends who potentially are having the toughest day of their life, who have been completely let down by the world, who trust these random volunteers with orange shirts with potentially their only possessions, and what they trust more is an opportunity to connect and feel safe and share, and then those connections turn into real friendships, and that's sort of the magnificence of Orange Sky. But I look at Orange Sky incredibly with so much awe, and I'm so incredibly proud of it, but I also acknowledge that so many people have been involved in creating what it is today.
Yeah, amazing. It's taken on so many different aspects, and I heard you talk at a conference, and you were talking about how you're not just doing laundry or a charity, you're also a technology company and all of these other things, and how you got to a point where you had to go, what is our actual purpose here? What is our mission, to be able to scale it back to go, this is the things we should be focusing on, rather than doing all of these other things that support and enable that business. Is that how that played out for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, when we started, we knew nothing about laundry and we knew nothing about running a charity. So we've had an immense learning journey over the last years. And one of the things we've realised is we haven't got everything right. And using that same tree analogy, with some limbs have broken off, and we've had to really understand those mistakes or challenges that we've had. We've forgot to water some sections, and we've had to trim things back and that sort of thing. So definitely we've had to really realise, like, Orange Sky is founded on this idea of having an idea and doing something about it, and that's why we've built our vans from scratch. We've screen printed t-shirts, we've built our own technology, we've tried to do, we now operate in New Zealand, and some of those things we do really, really well and we continue to do, but some of those things we've had to decide, actually, are we the best people to do it? And we've brought amazing people along the journey to do it even better than what Lucas and I did back in 2014.
And so how have you, with so many people coming in and the organisation growing so rapidly, how have you made sure that your values and your mission has really stayed true for all the new people that come in as you've grown and led people through that?
It's something that we're really proud of at Orange Sky. Is Orange Sky is quite a simple idea, and so many people now resonate behind it. And some of those things that I'm really proud of is we use the F word at Orange Sky. We don't talk about clients or customers. We talk about friends. We talk about the power of listening and sitting and connecting. And when we launched in New Zealand, I was at the local supermarket, and the checkout person said, "Oh, Orange Sky, that's like a new charity in town, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, we've got these vans and we go around and wash and dry clothes." And they're like, "Oh, isn't Orange Sky the charity that sits down and talks with people?" And it was such like a humbling thing for me to realise that so many people see Orange Sky differently. They might see Orange Sky just as this fixed laundry pod, say at the Mulaney Neighbourhood Centre, that's almost like a box that's got 2 wash machines and 2 dryers in it. They might see our service as one that actually operates out of a laundromat where we collect washing and bring it to a laundromat. So they might not even know Orange Sky being in a van, or a third of Orange Sky services are in remote communities. And so I guess we're really proud that Orange Sky isn't just known for what we do, it's how we do it. And that's, I think, where the values and the mission come in. It's how we listen with non-judgment, how we genuinely care, how we use that F word. And I think that's something that we've definitely, like anything at Orange Sky, done some really amazing things at, but we've also got it wrong. And I think that's something that we will continue to learn and evolve, is how do we continually refine how we train, deliver, connect, reflect on what we're doing. And I think that's the reminder that I'm always blown away with, is that Orange Sky is a people-based organisation where we have people from all walks of life coming together, whether they be funders, whether they be volunteers, whether they be service providers, or whether they be friends. And everyone is different, but also we're made of the same stuff. But we have people that come to Orange Sky expecting something and it's different, and maybe we've let them down, or maybe we've completely blown their mind at what we've been able to provide. And we've seen everything, and I think that's sort of going to always be the beauty and the nuance of Orange Sky, is how do we continue to evolve and live out our values in a really relevant and impactful way.
Yeah, I think that's awesome to hear about the evolution. We've certainly had to evolve a lot in our business as it changes and grows and goes global and all of the different things. And yeah, it's something you've got to be always thinking about. And how has that affected your leadership? Because obviously, as this 19-year-old kid with an idea, you didn't have much leadership skills, along with your lack of laundry skills. So how did you grow into that and become, a leader in this space? And how do you continually evolve that leadership as you've grown?
Yeah, it's something that as Orange Sky's grown, so has the people with it. And one of our principles at Orange Sky is we talk about being better for being orange, and whether that be someone's day made better for washing their clothes, or for me as a team member of Orange Sky, how am I better for being orange? And my life has been completely transformed and made so much richer by being a part of Orange Sky. And I think one of those things is this continual learning and evolving. And I've learned so much. I've learned so much about homelessness. I've learned so much about myself. I've learned so much about people's generosity and people's trust. And I think that, like I said, there's been times where I've learned not what to do, like made lots of mistakes, and through those mistakes, actually, that's where the beauty of maybe not showing up for a friend or not prioritizing the right things, and I think that's where the learning and evolution has come from.
And how have you and Lucas stayed friends through all of this? Because it's, being two kids as founders and not sure how far this was going to go. Like, how have you maintained your friendship and leadership at the same time?
Like any relationship, it's had its ebbs and flows. And Lucas and I met at high school because Lucas was at the top of the class and I was at the bottom of the class. And there's a lot of things that Lucas and I on paper are very different at. Lucas knows how to count and read and write, and I know how to use a screwdriver. So there's a big difference between Lucas and I, but also we have similar shared values that we really enjoy solving problems. We really enjoy connecting with people, and we like having fun. And reflecting back 10 years ago, Lucas and I used to spend every day together, and now Lucas and I don't live in the same city, and we have different roles, and we have different interests and hobbies. And I think that that's something really important to celebrate, is that friendship can be unlikely people coming together, but also what is the glue for Lucas and I's friendship is that we've been able to be a part of something that is greater than us, and to maybe that's what parents feel in raising children, or whether that's what people feel in being part of a movement or a community. That's what is the glue for Lucas and I's friendship, is that we believe and understand in the same things, and we actively have been able to grow and learn together, and that's the fabric that brings us together.
Yeah, I love that. I often think about that in terms of Laundry Lady, and that it's bigger than me. And I think that's a really important thing to, keep in mind as we grow and all of those things. Like, I want it to be here beyond me. And so, that's something that we talk about a lot as a team as well. And so, like, along the way, you've done some pretty cool things, and one of those being going along talking to the Obamas. Like, what was that like, and how did that whole experience happen?
Yeah, fortunate enough to be a part of the Obama Foundation back in the pre-COVID years, and was lucky enough to connect with the foundation and the Obamas in Hong Kong, in Kuala Lumpur. And so I think, like a lot of these things come about being completely naive, that or completely shocked that we would be eligible or invited to something like that. And what I took most from that is actually very similar things to Orange Sky. It's being part of a community and feeling seen and supported. And when someone comes to an Orange Sky shift, they might need help with something. They might need to know where's the place they can get food, or where they can have a shower, or where they can wash their clothes. And being a part of the Obama Foundation was similar, is that I was coming in there saying, hey, I'm a young leader and I'm trying to change the world, but these are some things I'm needing help with, and that community supported me with that. And one of the key things I took away from speaking to people from that Obama community is they put as much effort into planning a presidential visit as they would for a second or a third visit. Because what they spoke about is that, in some maybe developing countries they would work in, potentially the biggest thing that would happen in that year is the President of the United States coming to their town. And school kids would talk about it, communities would talk about it, they'd all go and form parades and that sort of thing. But what they realised is that if those people never spoke to them ever again, or never showed up ever again, how would that leave a legacy of for that community? So I always think about that is, how do you actually think about not only the first interaction but the 10th interaction? And this weekend on my way to Orange Sky's 10th birthday in Western Australia in Perth, and thinking back 10 years ago, I'd never been to Western Australia. We didn't even know if the van could make it across the country. There's a big east and west side divide, but for 10 years Orange Sky's been delivering our service. Or later this year in May, our Sunshine Coast service will be turning 10. And again, a reminder that for 10 years our service has been showing up on the same Wednesday night at a neighbourhood centre and delivering our service. And I think that's sort of what I took from that community, was so many little lessons like that around how do we really consider and curate what our presence is, and sometimes our presence is actually not to be bright and vibrant and loud. It's actually to be subtle and quiet and really considered, which maybe is hard for a young male to be told that.
And so what's the future of Orange Sky? What's your plans for the next 10 plus years?
Yeah, it's interesting. Over the years we've had these strategy days, and I can remember around our kitchen table with both Lucas and I's mums involved, we talked about Orange Sky's first strategy, and it was to have 10 vans. And we then ran some numbers, and it's like we need $1 million to build 10 vans. And that year I think launched 13 vans and raised over $1 million. And so there's been so many times at Orange Sky where we've sort of had a plan and we've completely been blown away with what we've realised. But also what has been the most common thing since founding Orange Sky is those simple things like providing basic human rights of clean clothes, conversations, and connection. And I can't see Orange Sky's mission changing in the next 10 years, which is to positively connect communities. I see Orange Sky Services being in even more demand as we become more divided as communities and we become sicker. And one of my favourite quotes is that we get sick alone and we heal together. And I think there's a lot of healing that needs to happen in this world, whether that be sitting down and listening and connecting with our neighbours or the people that have been harmed in our communities. But also Orange Sky is founded on this idea of having an idea and doing something about it. And there are so many things that need to happen for us to continue to grow and evolve. So, maybe in 10 years' time, Orange Sky might not be known as, this service with 2 washing machines and 2 dryers in a van. It might be known as something completely different, and that's okay. But I think what we will be known for is an organisation that brings communities together. So we just sat a 2030 strategy, and there's big words and meetings and whatnot, but I think for me, coming back to for the key things that stood out for me is that we want to sustain our impact. We want to really think about how can we continue to show up shift after shift and month after month. We want to evolve the ways that we're delivering our service. And like I said, that's why I'm really proud that Orange Sky is now rocking up in overcrowded situations or in remote communities or in schools where we've actually realised that homelessness isn't just someone sleeping rough in a park. And we really want to think about how do we grow this sort of connected crew of people, and whether that be grow the support that we provide to a volunteer team or grow our team of staff that deliver the service. That's sort of how we want to continue to connect and evolve our service.
Yeah, I think the way the world's changing so much, connectedness is just so important. I see it in my son who is 16, and he doesn't leave the house, he doesn't leave his room. It's all about online, connection. But even that is so, like disjointed from the way that we grew up and the way we lived our lives. And it's something that has got to be at the forefront of everything that we're thinking about, I think, in terms of our future and what, as a society, how we operate. As a founder, I know the hustle is very real, and protecting your own energy is really important, particularly when there's a lot of people involved, right? Like, we have a lot of people involved in our business, and that can certainly make you start to burn out. So what do you do to make sure that you, Nic, doesn't burn out as you are leading and being involved in growing this amazing business?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think one is we talk about challenge being a part of our DNA at Orange Sky, and we're working with people in potentially the toughest times of their life. We're working with thousands of volunteers. We're working with founders who aren't perfect, and so actually giving ourselves permission to make that okay, to actually know that we are going to have challenges. This is difficult work, I think, then gives ourselves permission and safety to maybe ask for help or to not be too hard on ourselves. And so I think that's one part, is just acknowledging that it is tough, and within that realising that, just like anything in life, the opportunity to take personal accountability and responsibility for how I lead or how Lucas leads, but also know that's like we do at Orange Sky, that problems aren't solved alone, they're solved together. And so Lucas and I haven't always got that right. I share respectfully that as Orange Sky's success grew, so did Lucas and I's BMI. Like, we weren't looking after ourselves, and we weren't connecting with those really important people in our loved lives because we were out there delivering our service. And I think that that's something that we need to continually reflect, is how do we as founders deliver a really authentic service that is genuine to what we do. So Lucas and I have continually hopefully refined that, and as a team I think we do. Personally, I love making things, so the opportunity to keep on experimenting and building and trying things is really important to me. I have an obsession with tractors, so I talk about not needing a psychologist as long as I've got a tractor in my life. So an opportunity to heal country or to make things is really important. I think those simple things around solving problems, having fun, making things, they're really important to me, to connecting with great people. They're really important to me to be happy, but they're also selfishly things that show up at Orange Sky, and that's why Orange Sky is so nourishing for me to be a part of, is that it is directly aligned to what I believe in and want to be doing, and it also happens to be my work, but also that delineation is very subtle for me, which is maybe not for everyone, but something that is really important to me.
Yeah, and I imagine being a male in your 20s and thinking about your wellness and your well-being would have been very at the bottom of the pile of what you were thinking about. And similarly, women who are mums and looking after kids and businesses and that kind of thing, that we also tend to put our wellness at the very bottom of the pile. So it is really important. It's, put your own mask on first and, do what is going to keep you healthy and well through all of the stress of everything else that comes with it as well, I think is super important. And so if you could go back and tell yourself, I always love this question, if you could go back and talk to yourself 10, 14 years ago and say, this is what you're going to do, what would you tell yourself to do differently, or what piece of advice would you give yourself to get you through the next 10 years?
That's a great question. I think some of those things which I think we've done, like keep trying, keep having fun, are really important. I think the things that we've been very fortunate enough to naively keep was, a key connection to our purpose and our mission. And every day we're reminded of that. We're reminded by people wearing the same shirt for 3 days and helping fund our service. We get to talk to volunteers that have been, volunteering for over 10 years. We get to see friends who've experienced an Orange Sky service for the first time and are completely in awe and appreciative of what we do. And so I think, my advice to my younger self would be to keep connected to, maybe the rocket ship that was, on a pretty, and is on a beautiful trajectory of Orange Sky, but to keep connected to that, keep having fun. And I think the key learning for me is the power of friendships and relationships. And it's a bit ironic that Orange Sky is founded on this idea of showing up, connecting, and being a good friend. And I'm really proud of what we have done at Orange Sky in that space. But that's always where the area of improvement is how do we genuinely keep connected to our amazing volunteers, our amazing donors, our amazing staff. Is a lot of people to remember their birthdays or remember their pet's name or remember their favourite treat. But as this has gotten bigger, they are some of the things that I always think, how can we be better at?
Do you still go out in the van and do the washing?
Absolutely. I hopefully I've gotten a little bit better at washing clothes. My favourite washing technique, though, is to chuck it all in and chuck it all out. So, I'm not a folder. Maybe you can tell by my shirt. But, being out on shift, connecting with volunteers and speaking to donors is, the most rewarding but also impactful thing that we can be spending our time on.
Yeah, keeping you connected. And what about Jordan from that very first day out? Do you still know where he is?
Yeah, it's a really common question, and last year or the year before, we celebrated Orange Sky's 10th birthday, and we realised that most weeks we talk about Jordan, but we actually had lost touch with Jordan, and we didn't really know, we weren't actually a really good friend to him because we hadn't kept in touch. So we actually tracked Jordan down and had a conversation with him, and we had our go at our very own Orange Sky podcast called The F Word. So maybe after you get through all of the episodes of this podcast, you might be able to listen to The F Word on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast, and you can hear about us finding Jordan and connecting with him.
Oh, awesome. I'm sure that a lot of our laundry partners would love to go back and listen to your podcast, because when they're ironing and washing all day long, it's nice to podcasts are the best thing to get you through all of that. And so finally, how can we support you? What are some of the things that we can do? Like, we can obviously be in the Sudsy Challenge, which we do later in the year, but what else can we do to support you?
There's so many things that people can do to be a part of Orange Sky, whether that be like you're talking about when you're having a conversation with someone, maybe just asking another question. People ask us what training we provide to Orange Sky volunteers, and conversations are pretty primal, but also those simple things around. My favourite conversation starter is remembering something about a previous conversation. So, maybe that next time that someone's dropping off some laundry is an opportunity to remember that previous conversation, like, oh, how did your dog go at the vet, or how has school holidays been, or whatever it is actually really thinking about that beauty of nuance of listening and connecting in a really genuine way. If you know someone that needs to use an Orange Sky service, we'd love to invite them down to an Orange Sky shift. You can find out all of the 450 plus locations we operate around the country onto our website. If you really love laundry and want to do even more and be a volunteer with Orange Sky, you can register to volunteer on our website. And if you want to join a fundraiser like the Sudsy Challenge, or make a donation, or learn about homelessness, all of those things you can do on our website, which is orangesky.org.au.
We definitely have a few people in our community who love laundry, so maybe there can be some volunteers out there. And if I'm going to remember something that we talked about the last time we met, it was about your dog, and I think is it a Groodle, your dog?
That's amazing, Susan. It sure is.
Ah, there you go. And is it she?
Gambino's a bit gender fluid, but he's
Okay.
He's currently a man.
He's currently a man. Oh, awesome. Well, I hope he's enjoying his life on the Sunshine Coast, because we do. We love being here, and this is our home, so that's what we share in common as well, which is pretty cool. But well, thank you so much. It's been so cool to hear about your whole story of not your whole story, but parts of your story of Orange Sky and the growth, and we're excited to be headquartered in Queensland, as well, and doing something very different, but also in the same space. So thank you so much for sharing with our listeners, and we will chat again soon, and definitely be part of the Sudsy Challenge later this year. So thank you, Nic.
Thanks for sharing our story and for all your support.